My guest is Chris Coleman, CEO of LookingGlass. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Richard.
So we better delve pretty deeply here into security intelligence because it's becoming one of the hottest areas for good reason, and also one of the most difficult to follow because there's so many different approaches. So tell me how LookingGlass fits into the new ecosystem.
Sure. So you're absolutely right. It's becoming another buzzword with cloud and
Right.
that's right. Big data. So it's really important, I think, to make the distinction. From our perspective, we approach the problem set from really starting with the internet. If you really think about this problem that we're dealing with today in the modern world, it's really network driven. Without the network, this problem set is not nearly as expansive as it is today. So from LookingGlass's perspective, we start first by collecting the internet, gaining internet intelligence, how the internet's connected, who owns the space, what entities are living in the space, domain aspects, and then we really take a mass multi-intelligence approach on aggregating multiple threat sources, whether it be from our own networks, our own sinkholes capability, whether it be from open source, whether it be from premium partners like iDefense or iSight partners. It's really about bringing all source intelligence together for our customer, laying that over top of the internet topology, and allowing them to really take a look at the internet and the threats from either their public-facing infrastructure, their third parties, whatever arbitrary networks that they need to carve up to get a view into to understand the risk and threats that are out there.
So it sounds like there's two aspects. One, you're aggregating, threat feeds, for lack of a better word, but obviously they come in many forms.
Shapes and sizes.
But then a way to help the enterprise consume those as well?
Yes, and it was really to help large financials deal with the whole threat intelligence problem. The financials started standing up threat intelligence capabilities, and they spent all their time doing data aggregation and writing scripts versus doing what they were hoping to do, which was the analysis of the threat against the organization. So we quickly came in to really take care of that data management problem for them, which then, as the intelligence teams grew and matured, a natural tie next is with intelligence. How do you operationalize it? How do you work with security operations teams to do that? So that led us into doing more things with event prioritization reduction, helping with incident response, and then because of our approach to the public-facing internet and the ability to carve up any arbitrary networks that you want, we then started to provide value into continuous monitoring of third party. So today, a lot of organizations contract with a third party. They do a checklist and walk away. Our approach allows really gaining that public visibility so that our customers can look at the third parties that they care about and understand any risk that's emitting from those public infrastructures so they can really tailor their risk posture and determine how they need to interact.
So if you've got a bank client, they can contract with you to monitor trusted relationships with their attorneys, auditors, outside suppliers.
Yeah, we have a lot of customers that, the interesting thing about the platform, it's a multi-use capability. Intelligence is not just about threats, it's about what your competitors are doing. Visibility in the internet tells you what they're doing, but it's also, as we were talking about, the third-party perspective. So we have customers that solely use our platform to really monitor continuously their third parties for their risk.
And you give me a better feel for what an actual deployment looks like. Somebody's got a screen they're looking at.
Yeah. So we have really a few different consumption models. Cloud Scout, which is purely a software as a service model, multi-tenant software as a service model. We have Scout Vision, which is an on-premises capability. Customers that are using the on-prem capability really they're either not comfortable in the cloud or they want to also integrate a lot of their own intelligence information. So a lot of our customers have their own repositories of maybe fraud information or other types of sources that they want to integrate into that global intelligence knowledge base. And then we also have a dedicated hosted component of that. So from that, it's an all web-driven interface. So from our platform, our customers can really get to a single place for global threat intelligence and internet intelligence through a single UI or through a single API for extensibility into other systems in their environment. We're very focused on staying open to integrate our data and the information that we have with other systems.
What changes have you seen in customer, acceptance or ability to quickly consume your product over the last 3 years from early days?
I would say that the biggest change is the desire to extend the capability into other systems. I think initially customers were looking at to really help manage their threat teams.
Mhm.
But as I mentioned earlier, as we've expanded out into operations, third party, other lines of business, it's really about how that information is extended and made accessible into other systems. As you know, there's no one system, there's no one solution to this problem. So having extensibility is really important for our customers.
And then, what kind of tools do customers use your threat feeds for feeding into and doing the security analytics and combining it and getting actionable results out of?
Yeah, so it's everything from big data to SIMs,
Mhm.
enriching SIM information, to taking information sets, putting them into other products that are maybe in line in the network. We just acquired a company, Cloud Shield, in March that is
Mhm.
also a component of our strategy for driving machine-readable threat intelligence of the network for what we're calling dynamic defense, which is not just an explicit allow or deny, but really being able to take the threat information, score that threat information, have show the end user how that information is, or how that score is being derived, so that the network can become a policy enforcement point, not just for denial component, but not everything is black and white in this world, and sometimes we're not sure if a threat is a risk to us. So how the network can handle that, either through rate limiting or redirecting or other packet manipulation capabilities while the team is investigating that, is what we're also driving to from a little bit longer vision.
Do you share my frustration with Congress, who's constantly trying to pass all these cyber bills, which all are all about information sharing, which, all well and good, except that all of your customers are already getting the benefits from information sharing, and there's so much else that Congress should be working on. Why do they focus so much on information sharing?
Richard, every day without a new law is a good day. I think that the challenge is I think it's really along I think the information sharing and the spirit behind it is really making the public-private collaboration a legal component. There's a lot of good information that can be shared, but it's not shared because of either regulatory issues or other legal barriers, or simply risk of the perceived private companies sharing with the government what that could do. So I think that the spirit is probably not a bad one. It always comes down to how Congress interprets the initial intent, and how that initial intent ends up being a law or a regulation. And we're headquartered out of Arlington, Virginia, so we're somewhat immune to all of those things anymore. But we just try to make the best of it.
Yeah. So you must see a lot of what's going on in the threat sphere because you're collecting all that information. Are you publishing reports on what you see and letting the world know what's out there?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a report coming out that we'll be releasing next week. That's been really focused on how active cyber campaigns have been integrated in the full-scale kinetic warfare with some of the things that have been going on in the Ukraine theater.
That's going to be exciting to see. What about integrating with, or what do you do when you find all the plethora of other intelligence products that are out there? Do you have customers that will have multiple services such as yours?
What we see is customers are really trying to get their arms around the challenge of the data management component. All these pre-existing feeds or services kind of have their own portal that doesn't necessarily help the customer. I think you've seen industry and a lot of the guys that have been in the space move towards having a lot more API accessibility, but really it's how they're wanting to bring this data together into a single place. There still might be value back into the existing portal, but they really want it to in a single place with additional context, not just this is a threat or here's the origination and here's the domain, here's the hash, but understanding the network context. As you know, attackers have resources in their resource bound as well. No one has unlimited resources, and so being able to understand the resources, the locations of the resources, how they're potentially moving around, how domains are shifting, and how that threat manifests in those resource pools become very, very important, and that's really a value that we bring to the table from that underlying internet intelligence.
How is security intelligence going to be delivered and consumed down market? So the medium business, they still have critical things to them that they want to protect. but they don't have a CISO, they don't have a threat team. How's that going to eventually translate down there? Because it has to.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I think that I want to answer this in kind of two parts. I think that what happens in this threat intelligence space right now is we're dealing with, and this is just so you understand the sheer volume, we're dealing with about 6 to 8 million unique indicators a day. That means different than the day before. And those indicators are broad from behavioral to very serious criticality items. I believe that dealing with those indicators and how we drive enforcement into the network is going to potentially create a device disruption. Today, firewalls, IPS, those devices are not able to handle real-time updates, especially at a sheer volume of the numbers that we're seeing, and I believe that will only grow, especially as more eyes and more people enter this space. How we get that down market is going to be somewhat of a challenge, but I do believe that some of the things we're working on within LookingGlass, we have a very strong focus on down market. Right now, obviously, we're dealing mostly in Fortune 1000 and governments, but we have a focus on how we're going to move this down market, and I think it's going to be a combination of a managed service delivery capability or some component of that, because you're never going to be able to put this simply in a box and do it well.
Yep.
So it's going to. I think that what you'll see is industry will address the down market through some type of combination of managed service capability.
Okay, and then ultimately you would sell to the managed services in order to provide that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a substantial opportunity for our platform and managed security service providers because of our ability to carve up any network and provide a lens into that. So for looking at your customers, not just, we've always done everything from the inside out, being able to look at them from the outside and then compare that with the information that you know about what's inside their network becomes very powerful.
And then financially, how do you work with some of the originators of the threat streams? You mentioned iDefense and ISAC Partners. So they've got very expensive delivery models, expensive relative to the size of some of the companies that need their information. But customers can get it through you as well. How does that economics work out?
Yeah, so for us, I'd like to say we're feed agnostic. As long as the information that's coming from the feed has some kind of vetted capability, vetted mechanism, and it's worth putting into the platform. We don't want to just put data on our platform for the sake of putting data in the platform. We're very feed agnostic, so most of our relationships that have expanded into like this iDefense or iSight, that's really customer driven.
Okay.
So the customer is already paying for that.
Got it.
They don't want to look at it in another place. They want to look at it in LookingGlass.
Right, got it. And is the standardization of how these feeds are written helping?
So if you're referring to sticks,
And
I don't believe sticks is helping right now.
Okay.
I was with a government colleague last week, and as he said, you can say it in sticks or you can just say it in plain English, and it's about the same from a verbose aspect. So I think that sticks, the intention was good, but I believe it was a built in a not operational environment. So we've actually created an open standard that we're going to publish that we use that is very focused on the observable model, an observable model that allows for very fast ingest and export of data, because that's ultimately what customers want to do. You have to be able to describe what it is you're seeing, but it has to be described in a way that allows for machine speed. And we're not convinced that sticks is really in a format that will allow for machine speed ingestion.
And it depends on where you want to do the work, because you do it either at the collection point, convert it to sticks, or do it at your ingestion point, where you can apply all of your computing power to that.
Yeah, we've been very focused on speed of data in and out because our next release is going to be highly event driven. So every change is an event. So being able to get that event on the wire out to another device or another system is very important for us.
Do you see yourself eventually as being the kind of the hub of incident response or reaction, as they're calling it, or just feeding information?
Yeah, incident response is definitely a component of or a user of our technology. We're not, a incident response process tool, but the nice thing about it is that incident response, if you think about it, we spend all this time doing incident response. We go, we write a bunch of papers, put all this information together, and then where does that information live? The ability, that to me is intelligence. So the ability to take incident response information and put it into our system and use that as one more source of intelligence. So if you're correlating some type of net flow compared to what we have in our indicator base, and you also have information that 3 months ago that same domain or IP was using this, it makes us that much more effective and efficient. And that's really what we're focused on, is driving efficiency and effectiveness into the operations and into the folks that are having to do this, trying to get them as much information and much context as they can so they can make the right decisions in the most expeditious way.
Okay. How do you go to market? Through direct sales channel?
Yeah, currently most of our on the Scout Vision side, as I mentioned, we bought Cloud Shield. They're a separate product line. On the Scout Vision side, the bulk of our business is direct. Same on Cloud Shield, though we do have some partner networks through Cloud Shield, but we will be expanding our partner program over the next year.
Have your large customers taken you globally?
Yes, actually, some of our customers, the paper was cut out in New York and the system's deployed in Singapore.
Okay.
So, so it depends really on where their team is. We are getting a lot of international traction, so we're excited about the opportunity to expand overseas. We're
Good
getting a
deal.
lot. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard.